One day the Browns decided to go for a picnic on the river. It seemed like a good idea at the time. It was a nice sunny day, and they hadn't been on an outing for a long time. Mr. Brown put Paddington in charge of the pole, and after announcing there would be a competition with a prize for whoever caught the first fish of the day, he gave the signal to move off.
Right, cast off. Anchors away.
Do what, Mr. Brown? Called Paddington. Dad means we're ready to go.
Put the pole in the water and push, called Judy.
Oh, dear, said Mrs. Brown. I'm sure something awful's about to happen. Don't worry, Mrs. Brown, said Paddington. Bears are good at punting. Oh.
Help! Help! Help!
Mercy me, cried Mrs. Bird. Don't worry about the gramophone, Henry. Do something.
How can I? Paddington's got the pole.
It's all right. Somebody's coming to the rescue. They're grabbing hold of him now. He'll be most upset. He had a special bath before he came out. We'd best be using my sunshade as a paddle.
The thing is, said a man, who's going to be the first to give him the kiss of life? Don't all move at once. If you ask me, we ought to try artificial respiration first.
Artificial respiration? Exclaimed Paddington hotly.
I'd rather have the real thing. I'm sure Mr. Brown won't mind paying for it. Oh, help! I told you not to sit up. Now you've had a relapse.
I haven't had a relapse, exclaimed Paddington. I've lost my hat.
Well, if that's the worst that ever happens to you...
Paddington gave the man a hard stare. That hat's been handed down, he exclaimed. It was given to me by my uncle in darkest Peru. There isn't another one like it in the world.
Darkest Peru. Perhaps it's sunk. Or got swept over the weir. I wouldn't mind betting it's got swept over the weir. If you ask me, it's a matter for the lock-keeper.
It might be too late. It might have got sucked into a whirlpool. My hat? Sucked into a whirlpool? Repeated Paddington, hardly able to believe his ears. Don't worry, Paddington. We're here. Jump on board. We'll take you to the lock-keeper. He'll help if anyone can. Paddington considered the matter for a moment or two. I think, he announced at last, I shall walk, if you don't mind. It's a lot safer, and I can dry out on the way. I knew he'd be upset, said Mrs. Bird. Having 2 baths in one day, when there isn't an hour in the month, is too much for any bear, especially Paddington.
A hat, said the lock-keeper. Is that what it is? I thought perhaps it was some kind of a bomb. That's why I fished it out and shoved it in a bucket. I thought it might blow up me weir.
You can tell it's a hat because it's got a marmalade sandwich inside. At least what's left of one. Paddington peered inside the bucket in the hope of finding some remains, and as he did so, he nearly fell over backwards with surprise. Guess what, Mr. Brown, he exclaimed. I think I've won the prize for the first catch of the day. Look.
Good heavens, exclaimed Mr. Brown. Do you see what I can see?
You just can't compete, said Jonathan. And he's got a free hat wash into the bargain. I expect, said Mrs. Bird, they were after your sandwich. Fish like bread. Perhaps, said Paddington. I won't have any 11s after all. I shall save myself for 12. I don't want to spoil my picnic. Picnics make you hungry. Especially when you have them out of doors.